Hey, Stephen Young here at High Octane Classics, doing another High Octane Walkaround, this time on a 1971 American Motors Javelin. Now, we all know that 1964 and a half, for the 1965 model year, the Ford Mustang debuted and launched the pony car market, followed quickly, by Barracuda, kind of came out at the same time, Plymouth. Of course, in 1970 brought us the Firebird and the Camaro. 1968, American Motors launched something called the Javelin and the AMX. This is a second generation Javelin, 1971 through 74. And again, 1971, first year example right here. Now this one is not an AMX, however, it does have the 304 V8 under the hood. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But the thing that's kind of cool about AMC V8 powered cars is right here you saw either 304, 360 or 401. So three different engine possibilities. And of course, it was also the six poppers, the 232 and the 258, but we'll ignore those because again, Javelin was kind of a sporty car. Now, the stylists of the Javelin, the second generation Javelin, took a long look at the 68 Chevy Corvette Stingray. And in fact, if you look at the wheel arches here on the front and the back, they're very reminiscent of the much more expensive 68 through 81 Corvette Stingray. We can again see the fact here, 82 Stingray, excusez-moi. But anyway, these kind of have the look of the Stingray. But with that said, American Motors was small and on a budget. So as a result, the doors, the deck lid, and the rear glass of the second generation Javelin are the same as the 68 through 70 Javelin. Same stuff, they're interchangeable, although they look very different. Now, one thing that sets the 71 and 72 apart is the roof stamping. You can see right here, there's sort of a Targa look right here, almost like a T-top. For 73 and 74, American Motors just made this a smooth piece of metal. So a spotter's guide, if you see this sort of Targa effect, it's a 71 or a 72. Let's now look under the hood. Before we open the hood to expose the 304 we see on the fender emblem, let's examine the long hood, short deck look of the Javelin, which of course is very much in keeping with the pony car aesthetic set by the Mustang, Camaro, Barracuda Challenger, the long hood, short deck. So this one really checks that box in a big way. And there it is. Now the 304 was the base V8, strictly equipped with a two-barrel carburetor, single exhaust, 210 horsepower, but that was then. This one's been fortified with an Edelbrock dual-plane aluminum intake manifold and an Edelbrock four-barrel carburetor. So stock 200 horsepower probably becomes 250 or so. It's got dual exhaust, so classic bolt-ons go a long way. But again, the 360 could be had as a two-barrel or a four-barrel. And of course, the 401 top dog was strictly four-barrel with 330 horsepower. But again, the 304, plenty of power to get your attention. This one does have factory air conditioning. Here's the York compressor, power steering, of course, power front disc brakes, and pretty well preserved under the hood. Something new for 1970, by the way. This is a 71, so second year, but these structures right here, the shock absorber mounting tower, before 1970, these would have been flat and body colored because they had trunnion front suspension, whereas for 70 onward, they went to ball joints in pretty much all American Motors two-wheel drive cars. So when you see these shock towers right here, you're looking at a modern ball joint front suspension, 1970 onward from American Motors. It did a lot for geometry and anti-dive characteristics. But again, the 304 two-barrel becomes a four-barrel, 250 horsepower. Let's look inside. Inside the second generation 1971 through 74 Javelin is as exotic as it is on the outside. If we look at the instrument cluster, we can see that it's asymmetrical with all the instruments biased toward the driver. Passenger side is a wide open void here. There is a grab handle here, standard equipment on the SST model, which is what we have here. And of course, SST logo is also seen here on the doors. And that means supersonic transport if you happen to be in airplanes, or in American Motors land, it meant the upscale interior with a slightly sporty vibe. Doesn't mean engine at all, but SST was definitely a sportier version of Javelin below the AMX. But something interesting here is how the aircraft-inspired controls, you see right here, panel light switches here, lights, all these on this horizontal surface, very different from pull knobs seen on most other American cars of the period. So inside, the AMC stylists were really cutting edge as much as they were on the outside. And speaking of the outside, let's look at the roof. Another interesting detail about the roof beyond the Targa effect is this right here. This is a baked-in roof spoiler. I would say that at speeds over 140 or 50 miles an hour, this probably provides 50 pounds of downforce. Speaking of downforce, this trunk spoiler absolutely does provide downforce. Now at this point in time, the Penske Javelin team was kicking butt in SCCA Trans Am, and this was wind tunnel designed and used on the Penske Trans Am Javelins, and it was available on any Javelin. So basically, this trunk spoiler here at 130, 40 miles an hour provides probably 100 pounds of downforce, again at racing speeds, but on the street it looks pretty cool. Speaking of looking cool, this one does ride on aftermarket Kreger 5-spoke wheels. They're attractive, they're nice, nothing wrong with that day 2 upgrade or modification, but the original wheel covers on this are pretty bizarre. Look at this. It looks like a mag wheel, American Motors, and it has lug nuts on it. It's made of metal. And you can see it's multi-piece construction, probably 20 pieces inside of this. But again, look how far AMC went to give you the look of an aluminum mag wheel or aluminum style wheel without really going there. So the only downside of these things, you hit a big pothole, this thing comes off, you're taking out an ankle on the sidewalk. But again, very, very cool, very original wheel cover. And also, we see here the SST, which again does not mean supersonic transport, but rather it was American Motors upscale trim group. And one of the beautiful details on Javelin was the optional side stripe. We see it here, it's 3 colors. It is reflective at night, and it's based on 3M reflective tape. And again, 3M, of course, they make Scotch tape, recording tape for music, and even graphics for cars. So this is the story of American Motors' second generation Javelin, 1971 through 74. It will be all done by 75. Meanwhile, Firebird and Camaro in the 1970s had whole new rebirths. Unfortunately, AMC pulled the plug on Javelin after 74. So get them while they're hot.